Welcome back to the channel. It began, as most ghost stories do, with a child's whisper dot in 1991, in a quiet Connecticut town tucked between forested hills and winding colonial roads. A 9-year-old girl named Emily Hart told her parents something that made them laugh at first, then slowly shiver. She said there was a woman in her bedroom mirror, a woman who knew her name. Her mother, Diane, thought it was simply imagination. Emily was a bright child, prone to daydreaming and inventing elaborate stories. She would often sit in front of her dresser mirror, tilting her head, whispering things, then giggling as if a friend had whispered back. But in the spring of that year, things changed. Emily told her parents the woman wasn't just her friend. She said the woman was calling her at night, calling her name softly at first, then louder. And that sometimes, the woman didn't look like a woman at all, but like something pressed too close to the glass, too thin, too long, with fingers that tapped from the other side. The Harts were an ordinary family. Diane was a nurse at a local clinic, her husband Mark an electrician. They lived in a modest 2-story house built in the 1940s, its paint faded and roof slightly sagging but still sturdy. There was nothing unusual about it. Neighbors remember Emily as cheerful, curious, and always with a sketchbook. But around March of 1991, she began to change. Teachers said she seemed tired in class, distracted. She drew fewer animals and flowers, and more faces, strange faces. Pale ovals with hollow eyes, all of them marked with cracks running through, like broken porcelain. When Diana asked about the drawings, Emily would just shrug. "That's what she looks like when she's close," she said Dot at night. The Harts began hearing their daughter talking softly in her room. At first, they assumed she was reading aloud or playing. But when Mark crept up the stairs one night, he swore he heard 2 voices, his daughter's, and another, lower, older, rasping as though dragged through broken glass. When he opened the door, Emily was sitting cross-legged in front of her dresser mirror, staring intently at her reflection. But the room was silent. By April, Diane was worried. Emily complained of cold drafts in her room, though the windows were shut tight. She said the mirror was breathing. Then came the night of the knocking. It was just past midnight when both parents awoke to the sound of knuckles rapping, faint, steady, 3 knocks at a time. It came from upstairs, from their daughter's room. Mark hurried up the stairs and pushed the door open. Emily was sitting upright in bed, wide awake, eyes glassy with terror. The mirror across the room had fogged, though the air was warm. "There," she whispered, pointing. "She's knocking because she wants to come in." The mirror was clean when Mark stepped closer, but the moment his hand touched the glass, he swore it was colder than ice. On the night of May 4th, 1991, the Hart family's world collapsed. Around 2:30 a.m., Diana woke to the sound of her daughter calling faintly. The voice was muffled, strained, like someone shouting through a wall. She rushed into Emily's room and froze. The bed was empty. The blankets were thrown back. The window still locked from inside. The door was shut, no sign of struggle. But the mirror, the tall dresser mirror Emily often sat before, was shattered. Not in the way glass breaks when struck from outside, but as if something had pushed out from within. The shards lay scattered across the carpet, sharp edges glittering in the moonlight. The frame itself trembled slightly, as though it had just been struck. Emily was gone. Police descended on the Hart home within the hour. Officers searched the entire property, the surrounding woods, and questioned neighbors. There was no evidence of forced entry, no footprints, no signs of abduction. The mirror became the focus. Detectives noted the peculiar pattern of cracks, spiderwebbing outward, as though pressure had been applied from the inside. Forensic teams examined it but found no trace of blood, fingerprints, or residue. when Diane insisted that Emily had complained of a woman in the mirror for weeks. The officers exchanged looks. The official report listed Emily Hart as a missing juvenile. Probable abduction, but among the detectives there were whispers. One officer admitted he couldn't stand to look into that broken mirror. He swore he saw movement in the fractured glass shapes that didn't belong. The case quickly gained local attention. Reporters called it the Mirror Girl Disappearance. Yet despite exhaustive searches, no trace of Emily was ever found. The Harts were devastated. Diane fell into deep depression, and Mark, consumed by guilt, spent nights staring at the broken mirror as if demanding it to give back what it had taken. Eventually, unable to bear the silence of the house, they moved away. The house sat abandoned for years. Neighbors swore the upstairs window would sometimes flicker with light late at night, as though someone walked back and forth with a candle. Others claimed that if you stood outside on the road at midnight, you could hear faint knocking from the second-floor bedroom. Always 3 knocks. Always the same rhythm. Some said they heard a girl's voice calling softly from above, muffled, as though trapped behind walls. By the mid-1990s, the case went cold, but in 1997, a retired police officer named Richard Hall spoke about it on a late-night radio program. He revealed something never included in the official report. During the initial investigation, Hawley had stayed overnight in the Hart home. He was in the living room when, around 3 a.m., he heard footsteps above him. Believing it was one of the parents, he ignored it until he remembered both were asleep in the guest room downstairs. When he looked up the staircase, he saw a figure standing at the top landing. Small, child-sized. Emily? He called Dot. The figure turned its head. The hallway light glinted across its face, or rather what should have been a face. Instead, he saw fractured glass, reflecting the glow back at him. Then the figure stepped backward into the dark and was gone. Hawley never spoke of it officially, fearing ridicule, but he confessed that he believed Emily was never abducted. She had been taken pulled through something none of them understood. Over the decades, the story of the Mirror Caller became a local legend. Teenagers dared each other to sneak into the abandoned Hart house. Some claimed to see their reflections move when they stood in front of the cracked mirror. Others said if you whispered Emily's name 3 times, you'd hear soft knocking from the glass. In 2003, a group of college students broke in with a camcorder. Their shaky footage, uploaded years later to the internet, showed them laughing and joking until one girl, standing in front of the dresser mirror, froze. The glass had fogged over, and in the mist, letters began to form. Aim Ile. The camera dropped. The recording ended. The students never returned to the house, perhaps the most disturbing part of the Hart case came years later. Researchers digging through archives uncovered older accounts, stretching back to the 1930s, of children in the area speaking of voices in mirrors. A diary from 1947, written by a young girl who once lived in the same house, described a woman with a cracked face who whispered her name at night. She too complained of knocking from the mirror. The diary ended abruptly, mid-sentence. That girl's fate? Lost to history. Today, the Hart home remains empty. The paint peels, the porch sags, weeds choke the yard. But the upstairs bedroom still holds that fractured mirror, its shards long since removed, the frame warped and dull. Locals refuse to go near it. Some say if you walk past at night, you'll hear the sound of fingernails scratching faintly on glass. Others swear they've seen a pale face watching from the upstairs window, a face split with cracks, smiling faintly, as though waiting. The town has tried to sell the property multiple times, but every deal falls through. Those who tour the house report sudden dizziness, nausea, or the sensation that their reflection doesn't move when they do. In 2019, Nearly 3 decades after Emily Hart vanished, a man named Thomas Green, a paranormal investigator, entered the Hart home with a digital recorder. He set it down in front of a mirror and asked, "Who are you?" For nearly a minute, silence. Then faintly, a child's voice, "Help me." 3 knocks followed, sharp against the glass. The recording was uploaded online, debated endlessly hoax or proof. But what unsettled viewers most wasn't the voice. It was the reflection, barely visible in the background of the video. A small girl, sitting cross-legged in front of a mirror, watching, waiting. And when the recorder was retrieved, the glass showed fresh cracks that spread outward like fingers pressing, trying to push through. Some say the house is cursed, others believe Emily was just another child lost to a predator, her disappearance made stranger by frightened parents and superstition. But if you ever find yourself on that quiet Connecticut road, passing the abandoned house with the dark second-floor window, stop and listen. If you hear 3 knocks, don't look into the mirror, because something may be looking back, and it knows your name.